In this episode of American Greed, Karl Karlsen considers himself a country gentleman.
I think he strived to be the center of attention.
He runs a sprawling farm. He raises Belgian draft horses.
My father liked to keep them, and the bigger the better.
And he does it all on a factory worker's salary. How?
I mean, the whole thing just makes no sense.
The answer may lie in the so-called accidents that keep happening.
911, what's location of your emergency?
I think I need an ambulance.
Accidents that claim the lives of his son and wife.
She's in there, and she's stuck, and she's gonna die.
I started screaming. I couldn't even stop.
Accidents that always lead to a hefty insurance payout.
Between the cars, the vacations, the duck farm, I really wondered where he was coming up with the money.
Will the authorities ever confirm what his terrified children know to be true? Tonight, the secrets of a man who sacrifices his loved ones for money.
That a human being is expendable for a check.
As told by the family members who made it out alive.
That man doesn't deserve to live. Dad, he does not deserve to live.
It's 2008 in Varick, New York, a rural town nestled in the Finger Lakes region of the state. In the rolling fields between Seneca and Cayuga Lakes sits the farm of Karl Karlsen. Karlsen is a factory worker, but the farm is his true passion. He raises Belgian draft horses.
Our farm was a hobby farm. We usually had between 25 and 30 horses on the farm.
The horses can weigh up to 2,000 pounds and cost up to $10,000 each. The impressive horses fit right in with Karl's self-image.
He's actually very impressed with himself.
I think he had the tendency to be a little bit of a storyteller and a fabricator in his own mind. Anything he could do to draw attention to himself.
Michael Karlsen is Karl's older brother.
It's all about him and money and his success, his image, his prestige.
Karlsen manages the farm on his own, with occasional help from his 4 children. 3 are from his previous marriage: Aaron, the firstborn, son Levi, and Katie, the youngest.
When times were good with Dad, they were really good. So he and I spent an awful lot of time going across the hayfields on tractors or, plowing the snow in the winter. And so there was a lot of good memories that I have associated with stuff like that.
Despite this bucolic life, Karlsen is sometimes at odds with his son Levi. Levi, seen here with his high school sweetheart Cassie, doesn't fit into Karl's idealized view of his family.
Levi was into heavy metal. He hated country western, but Karl loved country western. Karl was into country western music, square dancing. He very much considered himself a country gentleman.
Levi, now 23, moves out of his father's home at age 16.
He hopped for a bit. He would go stay with friends. And then he, met and fell in love with Cassie.
He was different, and he seemed very comfortable with being different. I remember the first time I saw him, he was dressed in his goth gear, and his hair was blue. And I found that, very interesting.
Shortly after she graduates high school, Cassie and Levi marry.
Our daughter was born about 6 weeks after we got married. She was the best thing to ever happen to him. He loved her so much.
The two eventually have 2 daughters, but the magic doesn't last. They divorce after a few years of marriage, but remain on good terms for their kids' sake.
And there was always lots of kisses and lots of playing, and he was very active with them. They were his whole world.
Levi and his father Karl don't have much contact, but still see each other a few times a year. On this day, November 20th, 2008, Karl calls his son and asks if he can help fix up his old farm truck. Levi has a knack for working with cars.
It was a big pickup truck, like one of those F-250, something like that. Big old farm truck.
The truck is a couple of decades old, but it's a workhorse. Karlsen uses it around the farm often. Karlsen says the truck needs repairs on its brakes. He gives Levi $50 for the job.
Levi was very well known for being able to help where he could. When it came to helping his father with things, the way a lot of times that he saw it was if he was helping, then the job was getting done.
When Levi arrives at the farm, the truck is already jacked up and ready for repairs. The plan is for Levi to do the work while Karl and his wife Cindy, Levi's stepmother, attend the funeral of a relative. As Cindy waits in their car, Karl speaks to Levi in the barn. Then he joins her, and they drive off.
That was about noontime. Left with his wife to go to a funeral in Penn. Went to a reception after the funeral at the Moose Club. Acted like he always acted. Laughed and joked as he always did.
When Karl and his wife Cindy return from the funeral, they're stunned at what they find in the barn. Levi is pinned underneath the truck.
Came home at about 3:50 p.m., discovered his son, and screamed out for his wife to call 911.
911, what's location of your emergency?
Yes, I live at 5 Yale Farm Road.
Okay.
I think I need an ambulance.
She was, hysterical on the phone.
He's not alive.
Is he breathing?
His chest is crushed. He's probably been under here for hours.
Levi is dead.
So I was driving to my boyfriend's house at the time, and halfway there I got a phone call from my grandpa. And his exact words were, "Levi's gone."
While Karl is at the funeral, authorities say the thin, wobbly railroad jack that props up the truck falls over.
It sounded like a tragic accident for everything that was explained to me, that the jack slipped is what I was told. The jack slipped and the truck came down on him.
Cassie is so stunned, she can't even tell her kids what happened.
It was awful. It was absolutely awful. I couldn't even gather myself up enough to be the one to tell my children. My mother told them.
Karl Karlsen says he thinks he's cursed. This is the second time a close family member of his has died in a tragic accident.
That was our life growing up. One bad incident after another.
Karl Karlsen and his family's accidents is a story that spans several decades and thousands of miles. In the early 1980s, Karlsen is a cadet in the Air Force. While stationed in North Dakota, working with nuclear missiles, Karlsen is drawn to the wife of a fellow cadet, Christina Alexander. Despite her marriage, Karl sweeps Christina off her feet.
Karl and Christina had this whirlwind romance when they met on the Air Force Base in North Dakota.
Michael Karlsen is 2 years older than his brother.
The first time we met her is when they came home. We knew nothing about her other than he called my father and said, I'm gonna be a dad, and oh, by the way, I'm married. And when they got out of the service, he came home with her.
Christina and Karl Karlsen settled in central New York, close to where Karl grew up. Karlsen's family is impressed with his new wife.
She's an amazing young lady, great kid. The sun was always shining in her world. Just always had a smile on her face.
The couple eventually have 3 young children, Aaron, Levi, and Katie. Karl works at the local stone quarry, but money is tight.
We were all in the same mode in life. Young kids ourselves, newly married. I don't think any one of us had a nickel to rub between, we were all trying to survive.
Christina's family lives out west in central California, in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains. Her father owns a sheet metal business. He offers his new son-in-law an opportunity.
I told him, look, if you ever need a job, come on out to California and you work with me.
In the late 80s, Christina and Karl take him up on the offer and relocate to her hometown of Murphys, California. Christina's sister, Colette, says Karl is charming.
He can be very friendly, he can be very funny. So my first impression with him was that he had a great sense of humor and that he made me laugh a lot.
Christina's father finds a home for the young family.
I had a house for them that I rented up above Murphy's on the highway, or just off the highway. So I thought it might be good for them, save a little bit of money, that they could live in that house for free.